Well, hello to every one of my friends. Hey, thanks for coming back. So now what we're going to do is add real-time data to our database that we created in Firebase. And I want to just jump right in. Now, in the last video, we created a database on Firebase, but this database is still pretty empty. In the rules section, we made the rules of the database closed to read and write. So, let me just ask you, why do we leave the database closed to reading and writing? What's the meaning of creating a database if we can't write something to the database or read the data from there? Well, here we turn off the database for reading or writing, which means that users cannot add and read data from the mobile application as well as from the web. But we, right, can add, remove, change, or read data from the Firebase management panel. That's all. So now what I'll do is I'll make the read and write properties of the database to be true. And then these settings get applied when I press the publish button. But see how Firebase gives us a warning? Well, it says that our operation is dangerous. In fact, it's actually not the right move to open the permissions, right, to reading and writing the database completely, because everyone can access a whole database from within the application. So instead, you can set the database to read specific sections, write specific sections, and close or open both sections when you need to. See, so you can do these operations after creating the database. However, since we are in this experimental stage, we're just opening the entire database for reading and writing. So here, I'm just going to close this warning up by pressing the dismiss button. So I guess you could say it's potentially dangerous, but it's not dangerous for us right now. So I just want to go back to the data section. Now, Firebase database works with a system called NoSQL. So in other words, you don't create tables like SQL databases, add data into these tables, and then access the contents of the tables with SQL queries. Instead, you see, it works with this parent-child logic. So there's a parent at the top, and below the parent, there will be the children of that parent. Now, you could also compare this to the tree structure in the data structures lesson, but it does work a little differently. For example, this is our main database here. Well, let's add a child under it first. Now, when clicking on the plus sign next to it, see how a new child gets added. Now, let's call this new child employee. Now, perhaps you remember while creating tables for SQL queries in the database lessons, the first employee table is usually created. So we'll add another child to this employee database. Now let's call this child's name. All right. So the value of the name, well, let's call it David. So here, I wonder if you can see here, only the last child can take that value. See, parents cannot take the value. Let's add another child to this employee parent. And this child's name is going to be surname. And we'll call this child Beckham. So here, do you see this? We've now created a child named employee under the main database. Also, we created two children under that employee. Now, these last two children have values. When I press the add button, these values are added to the database. I'm going to add another child to this employee parent. The name of this child may be Job, let's say, and the value will be engineer, just for an example. So when the add button gets pressed, this child gets added under the employee parent. And as you can see, the employee parent has no value of its own. The parent cannot take value in the system. You can add as many children as you want to the employee parent, or you can add as many children as you want to the main database. Here, the employee is both a child and a parent. So the employee is both a child of the main database and also has children. All right. So let's add another child to the main database. And we'll have this child's name be salary. And a value to the salary child. Now, I cannot add children under it. So let's give 2,000 as the salary value. Now, pressing on the add button, the salary gets added to the bottom of the main database. Right, so now the main database has 2 children, and one of these children is salary, the other is employee. The employee child also has 3 children. These 3 children are job, name, and surname. Okay? Now, first, the database should be created in this way according to the application content. For example, let's just add a section to the database where you will keep user data. Okay, so we'll just call this section users, and we'll need to create children for whatever data that we want to keep. For example, let's keep the user's name, and let's say its name, for example, would be Mary. Then we can keep the user's email address, and we can write a value in here. And sure, you can keep the user's phone number. So I'm writing a number here. Now, by pressing the Add button, 3 values get added under users. Now, you could add thousands or millions of data like this, right? This is a system that we will use when we create this database. But I do want to let you know that there's also another system that we will take the data from the user and add it into here. For example, here users can enter information like name, mail, and phone number in the application, and then this data can be added to the database. So we will actually be creating this process in Android Studio. So I want you to move over to Android Studio, and we'll continue from there.